When we think of ancient Egypt, we picture the big pyramids, King Tut's shiny gold mask, and the giant statue of the Sphinx. We think of the gods and all those incredible buildings. But what about the people? The ones who actually built everything? What did they eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? What food gave them the strength to lift massive stones and carve those amazing walls? Well, it turns out the real story of ancient Egypt is told on their dinner plates. And that story is much stranger and more surprising than you might think. In school, we're told they ate simple things: bread, beer, and dates. But that's not the whole story. In fact, it's not even the most exciting part. What if I told you? The bread they ate was so full of sand that chewing it felt like biting into a rock, slowly grinding down their teeth. Or that they worshipped a simple vegetable as if it were a superhero, believing it came straight from the gods? Forget what you've seen in movies. This isn't just history. It's a strange, gritty, and delicious journey. We're about to explore a menu filled with dangers, shocking snacks, and even a dessert with a story. That might just blow your mind. So, are you ready to discover what the ancient Egyptians really ate? Get comfortable, because after this, you'll never look at a history book the same way again. Let's begin with the most important food in all of Egypt: bread. Everyone ate it, from the mighty king in his grand palace to the quiet farmer working along the Nile. Bread was their main food, just like rice or potatoes are for us today. It was so essential that people were sometimes paid with bread. It wasn't just food, it was currency. And they didn't just have one type, they had over 30 different kinds, made in all sorts of fun shapes and styles. Sometimes they even added honey or fruit to make it sweet. That sounds pretty good, right? But here's the twist. Eating this bread was actually a painful experience, because the secret ingredient in almost every loaf was sand. And not just a pinch, a lot of it. Now, they didn't do this on purpose. It happened because of how they made their flour. They had to grind wheat by hand, using 2 heavy stones. Imagine rubbing 2 rough rocks together to make powder. Over time, tiny bits of stone would break off and mix right into the flour. And then they'd bake that flour outside, right there in the open desert, with the wind blowing across the sand. It was like nature adding sprinkles to every loaf. But these weren't sweet sprinkles. They were gritty and sharp. So every bite of bread was also a bite of sandpaper. How do we know this? Because when scientists examine the mummies, they find something shocking. Their teeth, completely worn down, flat, smooth, like a sidewalk that's been walked on for years. And this wasn't from sugar, it was from chewing sandy bread. The result? Toothaches, infections, teeth falling out. Imagine that. Having to eat the very thing that's destroying your mouth just to survive. That was daily life for millions of ancient Egyptians. When you hear the word papyrus, you probably think of old scrolls, an ancient paper with secret messages written on it. But would you ever think about eating it? The Egyptians did. The papyrus plant grew everywhere, along the banks of the Nile, like tall grass swaying in a field. And long before they turned it into paper, it was actually a common snack. A famous Greek historian, Herodotus, once observed this himself. He saw Egyptians cutting the bottom of the plant and eating it. This wasn't just survival food, it was a normal part of their daily diet. The inside of the stalk was soft and spongy, a bit like the middle of a celery stick. They would chew it raw, just to suck out the juice, and then spit out the stringy bits. Other times they'd boil it, roast it, or even bake it to bring out a richer taste. Now, papyrus didn't give them much energy. It wasn't like bread or meat, but it was packed with fiber and filled them up just enough. The truly fascinating part is that this same plant was used to write their history and to feed their families. A single reed, serving both mind and body. It shows just how clever they were, using every gift that the Nile River had to offer.